friends, welcome back to Inside Ambition, and thank you, dear viewer, for tuning in to the main report, a weekly news rewind so that you don't get left behind. I'm Gabby Remo. Before I get started, I would like to humbly ask you, strongly encourage you, borderline peer pressure you into subscribing to our new YouTube channel. You should also like and share this video, and you could also check us out on Instagram at inside_ambition. You'll stay connected with our show, and you'll never miss a Friday video date with me. And I know you are totally a commitment person. I'm already having Pagoda engrave an infinity-shaped promise ring with our initials on it. Now, we've got a lot to talk about today, friends. Let's waste no time and get right into it. As you should know, since we're BFFLs for life and you've watched every single episode of the main report, this segment is a Philly and Drexel news show. But I have to open up today's episode by taking it national. For our first story, let's talk about the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. On that Wednesday morning, a storm was brewing. Trump held a rally at the Ellipse, a park south of the White House. He addressed his supporters in what was called a Stop the Steal rally, denouncing the validity of the election and citing voter fraud once again. At this point, he had been urging his supporters for weeks to physically go to Washington and stop the certification of the election results. Trump called on his supporters to march on the U.S. Capitol, championing that he will be right alongside of them. And a big rush of people did just as he said. They started walking down Pennsylvania Avenue, headed for the Capitol while Congress was in session. The crowd overwhelmed Capitol Police and busted through barriers. It's almost like the Capitol's highest level of security was yellow caution tape and a Nerf gun. Trump finished his remarks, and the crowd became increasingly aggressive. Mayor Bowser requested additional forces from Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy. Capitol Police Chief's son spoke with the commanding general of the D.C. National Guard, Major General William Walker, asking for more assistance. Now, police and riot gear attempted to push back the crowds, but as they moved towards the Senate terrace, the insurrectionists smashed the door of the Capitol. Congress had to go into an emergency recess. And to make matters worse, the rioters took to social media, essentially digging their own grave. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, for goodness sakes, Pinterest, you name it. The social media sphere boomed with posts highlighting the illegal acts of all kinds. Individuals smashing statues, stealing Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi's mail and a laptop filled with confidential information, a huge national security threat. Viral photos of a man stealing the lectern, smiling and waving. So, if you're following along, the rioters fought the police, broke into the building, rummaged through offices, stole and destroyed federal property, and forced congressional members into lockdown. But within minutes of this attack, the situation got darker. Many rioters were seen fully armed, some with guns, bulletproof vests, zip ties, and so much more. Crowds were seen on video chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." Now, this came after Trump himself tweeted criticism of the vice president, stating, "Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected state of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones which they are asked to previously certify. USA demands the truth." This anger from Trump stems from Pence agreeing to fulfill his duty as the vice president and certify the election results, despite Trump's non-stop bid to overturn the election through invalidation. On a similar note, numerous social media posts were highlighted and flagged with one common theme: hurting or killing congressional members. Now, that to me was the most sickening part. Rioters had went to the Capitol with the sole intention of hurting those who were trying to protect the one thing our nation prides itself on: a fair democracy. And to an extent, they were successful. 5 people passed away due to this insurrection. Brian Sicknick, an Air National Guardsman dreaming of becoming a police officer, he was beaten by rioters from the mob. He was struck in the head with a fire extinguisher. And then 4 of the Trump supporters in the mob died that day. Ashley Babbitt, an Air Force veteran, was killed by Capitol Police as she tried to climb through a broken window leading into the speaker's lobby. Kevin Greeson, Roseanne Boyland, Benjamin Phillips, they also died during this event. And you can't help but wonder, was this preventable? Did anyone see this coming? Frankly, social media was alerted long before this happened. And I'd say the country was given 4 years of notice, but I digress. Let's backtrack for a second. There were clues to this horrible event months before it happened. During the fall election season, the Department of Homeland Security constructed a threat assessment. Due to political polarization and the ongoing election season, the DHS feared individuals gathering together in large, committing acts of violence. Then, in late December, the NYPD sent a packet of material to the U.S. Capitol Police and the Washington field office of the FBI. Enclosed was information taken from various social media sites. The materials indicted the likeliness of violence against lawmakers when the presidential election results are certified on January 6, 2021. 2 days before the election certification, the Metropolitan Police Department arrested Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the far-right Proud Boys group. He was charged with destruction of property and possession of high-capacity firearm magazines. But he was released the next day. They told him, skip town, go kick some rocks, leave Washington, essentially. On that same day, January 4th, U.S. Capitol Police Chief Sund requested from the House and Senate security officials that the D.C. National Guard be on standby. And the day before the raid, the FBI field office in Virginia issued an explicit warning that extremists have planned violence for the next day. This report included extremely troubling information, such as threats against specific members of Congress, an exchange of maps of the tunnel system underneath the Capitol, and organizational plans for different kinds of meetups. Despite that, because this information was not validated or analyzed, it wasn't enough for the National Guard or police to be deployed ahead of time. Now, this garnered a lot of criticism from the left side, considering the reaction to protesters during the Black Lives Matter movement. There was a lot to say about how exactly these rioters got as far as they did. There's speculation of it being an inside job, as video surfaced of a police officer waving in the crowd as they moved barricades out of the way. Heck, even the Philadelphia police are investigating one of their own detectives, Jennifer Guger, after she was in attendance at the rally. But either way, this event was many things. A security failure, an intelligence failure, you name it. But the insurrection at the Capitol left a permanent stain on the United States. But that, my friends, was January 6th, the insurrection at the Capitol. In the end, democracy prevailed, and Joseph R. Biden was certified as the 46th President of the United States. On Inauguration Day, the Capitol, Washington, D.C., and all surrounding and major cities were placed on a high alert. This was due to the fear of more riots breaking out. The new president and the event was heavily guarded. The National Mall was lined with 200,000 flags representing all of those who could not attend. Lady Gaga, Jennifer Lopez, Katy Perry, and many other celebrities were at the special event. And may I add, the inauguration drip was real. The pantsuits, the coordination, not a clashed fit in sight. The pops of color, representing the vibrant potential for our new nation, representing how our black and white world was being painted in color, maybe, just maybe. But the real star of the show was the biggest meme of January. America's favorite democratic socialist, the guy who puts I care in Medicare for all. My humble main man, Bernard Sanders. This man was dripped out head to toe, sitting legs crossed on a federal folding chair, looking a little chilly, considering he had the coziest mittens on. This Vermont maple man with more drip than a leaky faucet, he served looks. This photo of Bernardo Hernandez the Great has now become the icon of the week, as it has gone viral on social media. Even Drexel Admissions has joined in on the fun and posted a photo of Bernie and Mario. We love a crossover. But this is the start to the next 4 years. Regardless of your political position, continue to hold your leaders accountable. Keep that same energy, and good luck, America. Alrighty, that was long, but hey, let's take it local. Speaking of national security, a little over a month ago, Drexel University's College of Engineering came up with a very neat invention. It's a new fabric coated with a special material called mexine, and it's being tested in its capabilities of blocking electromagnetic waves and harmful radiation. This invention could be used for a variety of purposes, such as cybersecurity, with the material blocking contactless hacking by preventing the electromagnetic waves to get to the protected item. Other uses being cited are radiation shielding clothing, which could have many military uses. The research was actually supported by the U.S. Department of Energy, who plans on further testing the material to try and remove a lot of that negative interference that still limits the fabric from its commercial use. However, for the time being, blocking electromagnetic radiation at a 99.9% effective rate seems pretty good to me. For our next story, it's gonna be a little close to home, like literally right across the street. In the first week of January, at a virtual conference of the Society of Historical Archaeology, a University of Pennsylvania professor, Dr. Robert Squealer, took it as an opportunity to bring an irrelevant point after discussing accessibility to demand a physical presence in the Society's annual meeting and showed concern primarily over membership renewals. As he was reminded there is a time and place for everything. Dr. Squealer pushed the claim of freedom of speech, and while raising his arm to show the infamous Nazi salute, included with an anti-Semitic pro-Nazism phrase. An extremely offensive and very unnecessary action like this might have cost him his livelihood, as far as we know. The University of Pennsylvania has canceled the professor's class, but students are still demanding for his complete termination. In a later email, he claimed his actions were simply made to evoke a point on cancel culture, and ironically, the one who's being canceled is now himself. Great to know that he's totally taking accountability for his deplorable actions. Now, I'd like to end today's episode with some quick feel-good news. Band-aid up that trauma that I've brought up today. Let's start up with some Philly John. The Philadelphia Board of Trusts, after 151 years, has elected Attorney Bernard Smalley, the first Black president. As an agency that oversees 119 public charitable trusts, having this position be filled by a local West Philadelphian is symbolic. Smalley stated that he hopes to expand their ability to serve people from all walks of life in Philadelphia, as they should. Moving right along, Drexel's own Academy of Natural Sciences is opening its doors to a fun new exhibit, looking at the dinosaurs that came before the dinosaurs. The exhibit, called The Permian Monsters: Life Before the Dinosaurs, looks at a slew of fun and interesting creatures such as the Gorgonopsid and the Titanophonus, the Permian period, The time period from which these interesting animals came took place 299 to 251 million years ago, which is about how long last January feels at this point. Right, guys? Right? I can't do this anymore. The exhibit, okay, cool, we're almost done. Oh, heck yeah, we're almost done. The exhibit features fossils, scientifically accurate models, and interesting artwork, as well as fun interactive segments that will teach you more about dinosaurs than Jurassic Park ever could. The exhibit will only be around for a couple of months, so check it out soon, and ticket reservations are available on the Academy of Natural Sciences website. But that wraps up this week's episode of the main report. Before you say it, I will. I've already booked 2 tickets for you and I to go to the Drexel Dinosaur exhibit. Please dress warm. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the main report. Have a wonderful week, dragons, and I'll see you next time.